Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm Dr. Britt Andreatta. I have been the Assistant Dean of Students overseeing first-year programs at UC Santa Barbara for over 20 years. And then I was most recently the chair of the bachelor's degree program at Antioch University. And I recently left those positions. I'm now working for lynda.com, which is an educational online training company that I think is doing groundbreaking work with breaking the barriers between access to education and helping people support their own learning process. So I gave you my business card. It's good for a free 7-day trial. I hope you'll check it out. But when I was at UCSB, I was part of developing all of our first-year programs, including our most recent offering, our Veterans course. So I'm here to talk to you about that today. We've had great success with our program. We have 4 courses, student success courses at UC Santa Barbara. Ed 10 is for entering freshmen in their fall quarter, and it's really to help them with that transition from high school to college. We particularly emphasize that for our underrepresented high-risk students who maybe come from first-generation or low-income families. And then we have Education 20, which is it's the University Success course. It's designed for freshmen and sophomores, and so they can take it during their freshman or sophomore year, and really to help them maximize understanding what it means to be at a research university. Then we have Ed 118, which is for our new transfers. So that happens the first term of their junior year as they come into our system, and again, really to help them maximize their success. And then Ed 118V for veterans is what I'm going to speak about today. It's a version of our Transfer Success course that's really totally focused on the veterans experience. Material for all of these courses is on my website, brittandreatta.com, so you can get the syllabi, the readings, the instructor's manuals, everything is there. So you might want to check that out. And I also want to give thanks to Jeff Harlig, Kirsten Gabriel, and Jessica O'Keefe. They were all intimately involved in creating our veterans course. They helped teach it. We've all worked together to create, readings and all that kind of stuff. So I just want to make sure that I acknowledge them even though they're not here. Our agenda this morning, we're going to talk about veteran students and particularly their unique needs. I'm going to go into depth about what we do at UCSB so that you can understand why we created what we created. And particularly I want to talk about the challenges that we've faced and also the benefits we've gained from our particular model. I have a lot of resources to give you, and I do have the entire PowerPoint deck to hand you. And I'm also recording this session. So if you want to go back and listen to it, it'll be on my website within a couple weeks. It takes me a few minutes to edit it. So don't feel like you need to jot everything down. You'll have it when you walk away, and you can go back and find it. Couple statistics I want to add here is that 19% of veterans attend 4-year public institutions, and the VA does not track transfer students. So right now we kind of know where they go into 4-year schools, but we don't really have a way of tracking their transfer path. Here's some national data on veteran students. I'm not going to go through every bullet point because if you're thinking about working with veterans, you've probably started doing some of this exploration. There's some really great resources out there for you if you're starting a program. So I have on my handout, I've got some really great documents out there now that are really helping us understand the veterans population better, as well as the readings that we use in our course and some great websites that we refer veterans to all the time. A couple things that I would highlight here is definitely the gender gap. We see that on our campus as well. In fact, on our campus, it's 95% male. And students who are non-traditional. So these students really come in, half of them are married, half of them have children, 50% roughly, as you can see. And here's a quote from one of our students. Quote, "Being a 31-year-old junior sucks when I was leading a platoon a few years ago." So this notion of going from a very professional, very capable individual under extreme circumstances to navigating college and being there with other juniors who have a very different focus is a big part of the challenge that they face. University of Wisconsin actually did a study about their own students. And why I bring this up is I think we all should be doing something like this. If you're working with veterans, the play out of which branches you have on your campus, what kind of duty that they were in, how they feel about their experience, what kind of issues are coming up for them. You'll want to capture that kind of data for your own population. We've been doing that at UCSB, and we've been finding it's very useful because the national data really doesn't define regional differences. And for those of us in different parts of the country, we draw different segments of the population. And again, thinking about veteran students and who have been in combat, how many deployments they've had. This is, again, national data, but again, you'll want to talk to your veterans. At our campus, we spend time, right now we have a total of 89 veterans on our campus. 15 came in this year with this year's incoming class. So it's a small enough population, even if you've got a larger campus, that at least with the incoming group, you can spend some time getting to know them, and understanding their particular background will shape some of your decisions. I think these statistics are important to emphasize. Again, this is national data. Definitely having gone through combat, knowing people who've been seriously injured or killed, experiencing being shot at, being part of a physical ambush or assault, of course, those things contribute to 14% of veterans having PTSD, 14% major depression, 19% traumatic brain injury. The thing I want to emphasize about this, though, is it really means that 80 to 85% do not have those things. And yet, I think when we speak about veterans a lot, we focus on these issues, and yet the majority of veterans don't have some of these disabilities as a result of their duty. So I think it's important to find ways to be sensitive to those that do without lumping everyone into that bucket. Because for the students who don't experience those things, it can feel like that's the only thing that's talked to them about. So finding that balance. And of course, a lot in the news lately has been the incredible suicide rates that are happening with our veterans and our active duty military. Some of these statistics are really shocking. You can also see that there's pretty big differences depending on which branch the people came from. Every day, 18 veterans die from suicide. And the majority are not under VA care. So there's a gap here. There's a gap between the number of veterans who are seeking or under the care of VA and those who are in danger of harming themselves. And this is my biggest passion around this issue. One of the things that we found on our campus was that our military veterans do not have a trusting relationship with the VA. So they're hesitant to express some of their issues with the VA. They're not comfortable necessarily going and using the VA services. And that's where campuses can fill an amazing gap. Because of FERPA and HIPAA, we can help them in ways that are much more confidential, much more protected, and create a safer space for them to explore some of these issues. And I think we have a really big role to play in the mental health transition of our veterans and helping them with their resilience and their coping skills. So I like to focus on this. There's actually a couple videos out there that I would normally play, but we don't have internet access. But I have the links for them on my website, and we've actually shown them in class and create that as a discussion point for our students. The other thing that I would say, in California, recent research has found that veterans and active service members in California, the research reveals that 3 times as many veterans are dying soon after returning home than those being killed in Iraq and Afghanistan combined. So this time coming home is a really dangerous time in terms of their self-efficacy and their coping skills. So again, we play a key role. Many of them are quite quickly activating their benefits and starting the college experience. Veterans are not that different than any other student coming to our campuses. They've got some of the same transition issues. They just look different, but the same categories still play out. Academically, they definitely need an introduction to academic culture. It is very, very different than military culture. And so that's the biggest place we focus on, is understanding this new thing that you've stepped into and how it compares to the norms that you're used to operating under. And certainly expectations. What are faculty expectations? What kind of academic skills do you need? We spend a lot of time on critical thinking and analytical writing, because those are skill sets that they really need at the research university and are not necessarily well developed for them. Certainly social needs, finding friends, engaging in recreation. Veterans need a safe space. And this is really interesting. On our campus, our students have been really pushing for a Veterans Resource Center, a space that's safe for them. And what I found was so interesting as they were articulating this need was a couple of the students said, look, our culture is a little bit rough. We swear a lot, we use a lot of phrases that would make other students uncomfortable, and yet that's our safe zone. We need to find this place where we can be ourselves and engage in this safe space with our members of our community, knowing that we need to engage differently when we go out with the mixed population. And I thought that was just really self-aware, that realizing that some of the ways that they engage with themselves might make others uncomfortable, but wanting to find that balance, I thought was really great. And so we actually have created a resource center on our campus for students, which is just a lounge that we make sure have certain resources and materials available, but it's really made a difference. And also connecting students with veteran mentors. On our campus, whenever we can, we find, if you're talking to the folks at financial aid, find the person in financial aid who also has military experience. to be the connecting point. That kind of thing, just doing that little extra research to figure out who on your campus might share an understanding, can make a huge difference for them. Certainly emotional and psychological, and again, they have access to VA support systems. You also want to show them that they have access to something else and what those look like. We now spend a good portion of our course teaching coping skills, teaching resiliency, teaching some of those things that will help them manage the transition and the healing process from whatever that experience looked like. Again, finding a balance, knowing that not everyone needs that, but we have found that's really useful. And then certainly system navigation. How do they find housing on your campus? What kind of services are available? Even making the process of getting their benefits and when the check comes and what forms they have to fill out, that can be really overwhelming and mysterious. So even making sure your websites have really clear pages for veterans to follow in terms of accessing their resources. Veterans, as they leave their military experience, face a lot of challenges. Certainly their identity as a member of the military is shifting, and for some of them that's harder than they thought it would be. For many of them that was a very important part of how they saw themselves, and now what does it mean to just be a student? What does it mean to be former military? Certainly many of them are dealing with grief and survival's guilt. Many of them are dealing with physical disabilities and maybe not even comfortable with labeling it that yet. We find that our veteran students have a low percentage of taking advantage of disability services because they're not quite ready to come to terms with the fact that they have a disability. Potential mental health issues, PTSD, depression, suicide, those things that we talked about before. And as a result of that, a lot of veterans self-medicate. So we're seeing a lot of substance abuse issues in the veterans population. That's true nationwide. It's true on our campus. Certainly the shock of the academic setting and insensitivity by civilians. So one veteran said to me, whenever I share that I'm military, the first question a student will ask me is if I've killed somebody. And he's like, really? That's what you're going to ask me? And if I have, I really don't want to talk about it, and I certainly don't want to be reminded about it. And yet that's like the question of curiosity. And so then they choose to not share that about themselves, so then they're kind of downplaying part of their identity. And of course, being older than most students, it's just a really hard place for them to connect. So a lot of them are struggling with, okay, I'm on this campus, but I don't really feel like I'm part of the undergraduate population. And even some of my faculty are equally insensitive. So navigating that is challenging for them.